Welcome back, guys, to the Bear and Scully podcast with me, Sean Scullion, aka Scully, Old Malin, aka the Bear, Aidan the Face Radio behind the scenes. And today we are joined with Colm Cunningham. Colm, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
Colm, thank you for making your way on all the way up here. Colm, before we get into today, and people may now become more aware of our podcast and the heavy subjects that we cover, the things that nobody wants to hear about, the things that the mainstream media don't want to publish, but happen in our society, and that me and Sean feel is very important to cover, expose, and get out there to show people that are going through this, that it's not just them. But so with that warning, guys, we're going to talk about historical sexual abuse, and the court proceedings and everything that's come with that. So for anybody that's experienced that, or has went through that, or is going through that, and this may be very triggering, we are going to include some help links below, but we always just say to somebody, talk to somebody you trust, talk to somebody. But before we go into that side of things, get a wee bit about you, Colm. Where you grew up, where you from?
Right. I grew up in Annalong from the age of, a baby, till after my Holy Communion. Then I moved to Ballymartin, County Down. From the age of 8 onwards, I got introduced into the local Gaelic football team, made a lot of friends, just unbelievable. Playing with a lot of good guys, and just what an 8-9-year-old kid does at the time, never leaving the football field, standing on the 21, trying to take points, free kicks, whatever. Even when we weren't at football, we were out playing until the lights come on, and at night time you were called in. They couldn't even get me into the house at night time. We were playing kerbsies, you name it, 40-40. I just loved life at that young age, until the age of 13, when one fateful night, bus shelter in Ballymartin, right across the road from Paul Milligan's house, a group of us, probably 4 of us at the bus shelter, just standing, chatting, football, whatever, would have came over the road and got talking with us and whatever, and then maybe every other night he would have come over again. And then it started that he started sort of like the boys would have been messing because they were a year or 2 older than me maybe, and he would have stood up for me, and I sort of looked up to him that kind of way. You've got that older fella. And and then after a while, we befriended, and that was it. Into his house on the main road in Ballymartin. But sorry, first of all, he lived in Seaview Heights, where I lived. I was number 10. He was number 13. And we all were out playing in the park, as you do. All kids at that age were with BMX bikes, with just milk crates and ramps. Just jump over. I think I'd done the record of jumping 5 boys. But there was times I do remember being in his house in Seaview Heights, and myself, my best mate at the time, and he was showing pornography. But then I got away from it. Wasn't at that age, no, it just wasn't right. So that was okay eventually. Sorry, I should have started off with that. They moved out of Seaview Heights.
What age were you when you were being shown this?
I would have been probably about. I could probably seen this when I was about 9, 10. And yeah, and eventually they moved to 250 metres away down onto the main road. Where in behind their house, it was called Milligan's Tires. His father run the business. And yeah, it was just, we befriended and just brought me in. I had a kid at my age. I had no money. Wasn't part. I was 13, so I didn't even smoke. So he started me off cigarettes, Regal filler, and so started smoking, and then there's a couple of pounds, So this went on for about 2.5 weeks, and then he says, "Have you ever kissed a boy before?" And I says, "No." "Would you like to try it?" I said, No. I said, "Come on, try it." And silly me at the time, I done it. Disgusting. So then he says, "Well, call down again, sure. Sorry about this, what happened. Call down again, sure, tomorrow or whatever." Call back down. And he had a fish tank in the kitchen. And I remember us going to Newcastle, getting fish out of the fish shop. We shop in Newcastle, picking a couple of fish for the tank, asking me what one do I like, put it into the fish tank. And, excuse me, back up the road, yeah. And guys, I'm going to get straight to the point. He would have took me upstairs. You go up the stairs, turn right on the landing, come back down. His bedroom would have been on the corner. And he had a girlfriend at the time living in with him, with his mum and dad, and his younger sister. The oldest sister was out at this stage. And he says, "So, you kiss again?" And we gave in to the kissing in the bedroom. And "Have you ever heard of foreplay?" And no, I didn't actually. I'd never ever heard of it. So he says, "You do this and you do that." And yeah, so there was masturbation each, oral sex, and this went on for weeks and weeks while she would have been in the house downstairs. Because you would have heard a mouse coming up them stairs with the creaks on the stairs. He always kept the door ajar. And there was a caravan in behind the Ballymartin Inn that he had the keys to. Take me into the caravan. And that's where he raped me. Give me a few cans of beer. And this went on for over 10 months. I was so outgoing boy. Loved my football. Ruined it. Looked up to a couple of good guys that played in the seniors. Paul Higgins, Greggy McCartan.
Take your time. Just, it's okay.
And then, yeah, everything slowly started to go downhill. We had a brilliant underage squad. I always remember playing in the minors, and there was Colm Cunningham. Unbelievable talent. Would have ran from midfield right through everyone into the back of the net. I played alongside some good footballers. And then things I slowly had to get away. Because after games, boys would take showers and stuff, and triggers. I backed off. And then the pains. Remember my mother taking me to the doctor for the first time. I was 15 and diagnosed with having anxiety. Anxiety? What was anxiety? 1992. Well, I didn't know what anxiety was. I don't think any young boy knew at that age, that year, what it was. My mother's, I actually only ever found out a couple of months ago that my mother said to Dr. King, something has happened to Colm. Well, I never told her. Never did. She took her own life, 57. And I feel sometimes I'm to blame because she knew something bad happened. And maybe it's not true, but so yeah, like I went on and served my apprenticeship, got my level 2 and 3 in carpentry and joinery in Kilkeel Technical College. I stayed on with Coastline Kitchens. The employer was a great guy, Kieran Sloan, unbelievable fella. I stayed with him for a couple of years of that after my apprenticeship was finished. Pains in the head, the adrenaline rushes started getting worse and worse. I was starting drinking. The drinking was killing the pains in my head. The thing about mental health, people that don't understand the mental health, it's not just thoughts in your head, it's the physical feelings that come with it. They're sickly. And this is round the clock. So I left Kieran and I had to get out. I went down south to the timber frames. Another friend of mine. And I stayed down there on and off working for 2 years. That would have been 2002 then eventually. I met Nikki, an Australian girl who was au pairing in Narrowwater Castle in Mornpoint for 3 kids. And she was working in a bar in Shenanigans. And that's where I met her. We hit it off. So we were together year and a half, and then we decided she was going back home, and I said I'd follow her. I thought with all this, what was going on, if I moved maybe different country, things would all start to fade away. So yeah, she left June 2004, and I left September 2004, just so she could go back, get set up, get her into a full-time job and whatever. When I arrived September, she was pregnant with our first beautiful daughter, Kaylin. Yeah, I got myself into work. Pains and that were still there. Adrenaline rushes. It's torturous. Drinking anytime I could just to kill off pain. So yeah, we stayed, and then I thought maybe I was homesick after a while. So eventually, at the end of 2007, we moved back home and got a container ship with all our furniture and belongings, took over back to Ireland, thinking maybe was I homesick? Nothing changed. Pains still there. Like a tight band around your head, thick elastic band, just like that. Stabbing pains all over my head. Disassociation was a big thing. So you're sitting and you lose it. You're not focusing. You just dreamland, as I would call it. I had a lot of it, and the realization, I think, is the name where you think you're out of your own body. I had the symptoms of that. I also was diagnosed with bipolar, very much up and down. As I had to go back to the doctor again, you see. And yeah, seeing my psychiatrist since the 90s, late 90s. I was prescribed medication at the time. I can't remember exactly what it was, but just never seemed to work. The only thing that seemed to work to kill that off was the alcohol, which I did use a lot of to kill that physical pain. And then we stayed on till 2013. We eventually moved back to Australia. She wanted to go home. And I was trying every way possible not to go home, for her not to go home. So eventually, we had Riley, our second child, back in Ireland here in 2009. Another wee blessing. But eventually, 2013, gathered up our gear again and a container ship, moved back to Australia. Things started to get worse.
For you or for your relationship?
Both. The drinking, the working, the drinking. It's always working. Saturdays and Sundays at work. Trying to get my mind off it, trying to get my mind away from it. And coming home and having a drink. Next thing, maybe after 3 bottles of beer, I felt normal. I felt just the head was clear. But I kept drinking on and drinking on and drinking on. She gave me, well, hundreds of warnings. Never stopped. So eventually, in 2015, February, she finished with me. And before that, I was hospitalised by the police under the Mental Health Act in Australia. And I was in there for a while. And Nikki actually, it was only about a year ago, told me that she took the kids to visit me. I cannot remember that one bit.
What happened in that? What happened that the police had to intervene?
That time, actually, I wasn't even drinking. It was in a shopping mall, like a row of shops, and we were down, and I had the keys of the car, and I told her, "You're not getting the keys, you're not getting the keys." I had just lost it. No alcohol involved, just the head went. It was gone. So she had to phone the police. So they seen what state, she told them what state I was in, and that's why they sectioned me.
Were you diagnosed with bipolar at this point?
Yeah.
And were you medicating?
Yeah.
And were you on your medication at the time that this all happened?
Yeah.
And she had made the police aware that you had been diagnosed bipolar, so they took you for your own safety, was that?
Pretty much, yeah, for my own safety. And just, yeah, I was in there for a while. There's parts of it I can't remember. And small parts I can.
What was your treatment while you were in there?
My treatment in there was just being looked after, medicated. Pretty much just to keep an eye on me. So, yeah, and I don't even not 100% sure how long I was in for. But then I was released. And again, back to the drinking. The head's pains in my head, the hissing in my ears, the adrenaline rushes hundreds upon hundreds of times a day, just wearing me down. I had a nervous breakdown. I've actually had 3 nervous breakdowns in my life. I actually had it, I forgot to mention, I had a nervous breakdown when we were home between 2007 and 2013. I had it just before my 30th birthday. It is the worst possible thing you can go through. Your whole head and body shuts down. Your muscles become sore. And I remember her buying me a PlayStation 4 for my 30th birthday. Me lying, not being able to work, not me in tears. I couldn't provide for my family, my 2 kids. Yeah, and then, as I say, back in Australia, it was 2014. I was brought in for electro. See, I'm switching, but I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit mixed up.
Don't apologise, because a lot of victims of trauma, it's very, very hard to keep the train of thought because so many things pop by, and that's fine, and people will understand. Don't be apologising that, but there is a few things before we go back to Australia again that I want to ask you. You obviously had your mental health issues, and your partner was aware as you'd been diagnosed, and she'd been on this journey with you, and sometimes, as you know, we know trauma and what abuse does and what it triggers. Had you disclosed this at any point? What had happened to you, to your partner? Was she aware of why, of what was triggering and what was the demons you had? That you've been a victim of this abuse. Was she aware? Had you disclosed this to her at this point?
I would have had this disclosed to her at this point. From 2002 to 2007, 8. Yeah, she was aware,
Well,
but just didn't understand it.
I'm going to ask you, because I know this might seem stupid to some people that I'm asking this, but did at the time, did you know that was the trigger? Did you you obviously knew that, but I mean, did you know that it had all come from this, or did you think this was something that was happening to you at that time, or did you know it all led back to the abuse?
I suppressed the abuse. What happened?
Because that's why I'm asking that. A lot of victims do suppress that.
Oh, I massively suppressed.
And when they're going through the struggles you are, they don't actually realise that the cause, until you've started speaking to somebody, they don't realise that the true root cause of what has happened.
Of all the abuse, sexual abuse that did happen to me, I didn't think the pains and that would have came from a thing like that. I remember my mum taking me down to my local GP, getting referred for a CT scan on my head. I honestly believed at that time I had a brain tumour. CT scan came back, of course, clear. I sent for an MRI scan. Came back clear.
The manifestation of mental illness to physical pain is everyone. There is a clear connection with that you're feeling physical pain.
This is a big thing. I wanted to say it is not just having bad thoughts, doubts in your head, worries. It's the physical pain itself. And 30 odd years of that, I actually can't understand how I came through that. I actually think if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't be here today. No way.
But Colm, can I just take you right back?
Of course
you had talked about, that abuse that you were receiving from this person, but you'd said it went on for 10 months.
Yeah.
How did you get yourself away from that, or where was the break?
I knew because I was into the age of 14. Me was 17 into the age of 18. And then I knew it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. And I pretty much know this has to stop. I can't do this no more. This is wrong. I knew it was wrong. I was like, come on. I'm a boy, like, you're a boy. And then he would have, and this is so true, my younger sister will vouch for this one. So then he would have pretty much effed me off and blamed it. You effing this and you effing that. It's all your fault. And don't you effing ever talk to me again. And I remember going home and crying. And my youngest sister, Selena, was in the house and she remembers it well. Me coming and crying. Mother asking me what is wrong. And I just said I had a fallout with Paul Milligan.
Were you aware at the time? Were you aware that you were the only person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. I just thought I was the only person, yeah.
So I'm going right. Well, there is some questions, and it's hard sometimes for me and Sean to be. We want to be delicate, but we also want to articulate the story for
of
people
course, yeah.
that's listening.
Ask me what you have to ask.
And you obviously at the time you met your partner and the back and forth. We all know it's nearly in all of us to try and outrun the problem and move away, and we try different things without actually addressing it. And we always find, especially with trauma, and especially of this nature, that until you meet that demon head on, that you're not outrunning it. You can try anything. You can try drink. You can try drugs. You can try whatever you want. And you know, people have done it, and it's until you realised you need help. At what point did you start seeing a psychiatrist then? You had received your mental health diagnosis, and then did you start speaking to somebody then?
Yeah, Dr. McCaffrey was my psychiatrist.
And were you fully honest with them at the time? Did you tell them all, or?
No.
Okay.
No. I was too embarrassed. Ashamed. This is the way I felt about it. I wanted to go and tell my father. Who would have believed us? It wasn't a thing we knew back then. They just had to hide it. Yeah, continued on, just continued on with life. I knew when all this started with pains and that, I still didn't believe it was from the abuse. I actually did think that I had a brain tumor. The pains came on slowly. It just didn't happen straight after the abuse. It would have been a year or so, shortly after, about a year and a bit after the sexual abuse, the symptoms started to come along, and slowly, the feelings of it. I just even can remember being back living at home, not wanting to go to football training, just for the pains. It was more the physical pain than the mental, to me. And I want to let people be aware of that. And then I started to, me and Survivor S were really good buddies. Played football together.
Just for context here, later as we go on, you were aware of other victims that had been assaulted, and we're not going to be using their names. We're going to be using pseudonyms as Survivor S, just so people know, that is listening to this.
Yes.
Did you become aware then? How did you know that you weren't the only person that received abuse?
I didn't realise until October 2019, when one of our best friends phoned me and says, Survivor S marriage is in trouble. And he says, can you do me a favour? He says, can you please phone Survivor S? And I says, of course. I'll always remember that day. I phoned. He says, is everything okay? He says, I know. I says, you know what? He says, I know something happened to you. Survivor S, how do you know? He says, because it happened to me in Seaview Heights. On the main house, on the main road where Milligan's Towers was behind. That was when they moved out of Seaview Heights, that's where they moved to. So yeah, he went through a lot as well. He was told to put his hand on the Bible. And if things would go bad for him, if he was to say anything, But yeah, me and him partied. Young lads did, but we were sort of standoutish from the rest of the boys. Drinking and having a good time, but not once in all that time. I remember actually the night in Kilkeel, we cleaned off a bottle of, I think it was green citrus at the time, in the riverside. He had to get pumped out. And I don't know how I made it up to where all the young ones used to hang out, called Jokers. But I made it up to there. A kettle of cold water thrown over me, put into a taxi, sent home. And it was summertime. It was still daylight, of course, didn't get dark till 10 o'clock at night, 10:30. And Father told me to go outside, cool off, get a bit of air. Of course, I went back down the road. I fell asleep in the bus shelter. He would have picked me up, carried me up the road over his shoulder, back into the house in the bed. Well, they were the sort of nights me and Survivor S had. Like, there were something wasn't right. It wasn't right, and.
But with hindsight, we see all these things. We don't at the time, and you don't know that he's struggling because you're struggling.
No.
And we've went through this, and we went to Australia. We're back now, but I just.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm kind of back. I should have.
No. Don't apologise, because first and foremost, and this is always the thing I'd say, it takes a lot of guts to come here. And trauma plays a very funny part. People have very hard recollecting the series of events, even different parts of their life. Sometimes it becomes a blur to them, and their memories are jungled. You know, they're all over the place. And we've seen this with a lot of ones we spoke to. So don't be apologising that.
I'm just trying to. I would rather.
Yeah. We'll go back till when you were over and you'd taken the breakdown with and you'd taken the breakdown. Your partner had the place, and you were sectioned at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're back there now. This is the second time you're back with both your children, your partner,
mm-hmm.
And then at this point, did she say, "Look, this is enough here," that she was leaving you? Just 2015, we're back around, is that right?
In 2015, I received electroconvulsive therapy, which is anaesthetist will come in, inject you, it knocks you out. They put prods in your head. This is
quite a controversial thing, isn't it?
It's not allowed in this country. I think it's illegal here.
Yeah.
Unless it's to the very, very, very last resort. But in Australia, they do it. Yeah. And I had 12 weeks of it, where they put a gum inside your mouth, because when you're getting zapped, you bite your tongue. I had 12 weeks of it, done once a week. And after the 12th week, I remember feeling good, probably for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I felt good, like that was me probably just the head saying, yeah, this is it, over. No, all came back again, just back with a bang.
But it's pretty extreme that you've elected to go for this, because it is a very controversial therapy that
I didn't even understand what it was.
You're getting electrodes into your head and a current run through it.
Yeah.
It is just...
I would have done anything at that stage for something to help me. Yeah. So Yeah, she finished with me February 2000, and I'm trying to think, 13, we were about 14, 15, and it was 2014 I got the electroconvulsive therapy done. And then I had to live out in my 4x4 for a few days. There would have been a shower blocks in and around Cairns. Could have used them, eating out of my car. And came across a guy that offered me a bit of price work. Because up in Cairns in Australia, you need a tailor's license. Where over here you don't. You just go out and price jobs or whatever, but you need a tailor's license, which I didn't have. So I would have used his, and he would have just took a small cut, not major. And I moved in with him. He lived in his home place upstairs, but it was an old Queenslander, as they call them. I lived down below, which was beautiful. I had a big swimming pool, and I stayed there for a while. I would have had the kids. It's called Coles over there, like Asda here. I would have picked the two girls up in the car park of Coles, where Nicky would have been sort of out of sight a bit, but able to watch the kids come to me in the car. I would have picked them up, took them to Corey's. We would have swam in the pool, would have been fed. Just every time they left, I cried. And then when they left, I would have been straight into the drink. And then everything got too much. Just everybody, there was no real Irish people in Cairns. They were all Australian. I had Australian mates, but they all had families. So I didn't want to bother anybody too much. So I took the decision. I wasn't going to leave my kids, but I was going to leave Cairns. So I decided to drive to Melbourne to stay with one of my mates from home here. And the worst possible thing I've ever done. Got myself into work. Again, just drinking. We, in Australia, on sites, start time 7 a.m. 7 a.m. to 3:30, but you had the choice of working to 5, which was time and a half. So I would have done my 7 to 5, Monday to a Friday, and half 7 to 11 on a Saturday, double bubble, finishing work at 5, coming home in Melbourne, straight to the pub, leaving the pub 1 o'clock in the morning, having to get up again for 5. You had 4 hours sleep there. A lot of drinking done between 5 o'clock and 1 o'clock, or say 5:30 and 1 a.m. in the morning. Oh, I've done that for about 4 years, 3-4 years, every day. So I was burning the candle at both ends. And yeah, I did spend a lot of money. I was killing it just to kill the pain. But then eventually, I remember my friend here from home, his mum and dad came to visit. And he knew it was time. I was going to either drink myself to death, or I did plan. We lived on an 8th-story apartment. Myself and another mate from home here. I did plan to jump.
Was that the first time you thought about taking your own life?
thought about it a few times, but floating thoughts, maybe they were. I think there were more floating thoughts, but this one in March 2019 was the final straw. I had to pack up and go home. I had a good chat with my ex about it. She says, you need to get help. She says, I will always remember her say this. I want you alive to be around your grandkids. That's my kids' kids. To kick a ball, whatever. That was it. Came home. I stayed at my sister's house, Selena's, for about 9 weeks in Ballymorton, but she lived up the back roads, the school roads you call it. And I was a complete mess. Complete mess. Couldn't leave the house, just dizziness, blurred vision, the pains, the aches. And eventually, I went and stayed with my dad for 5-6 months. And that predator lived the park next beside us. 100-meter walk. I could see the house from my father's house. I could see him get into the car. Things weren't getting any better. And then COVID hit March 2020. But I had phoned the police in May 2019. I made that call.
What brought you to that? What brought you to the point where you're like, I have to do something here?
Who really pushed it along for me at that time was my older sister, Kira.
You'd confided in her what had happened?
I confided in my family 2009, except my mother.
Okay.
I didn't want my mother to know. But it was up to me to take it forward, but it just didn't seem right to do it then. But as I say, hindsight, I wish I had done it when it happened. Because I'm 45 now, I've lost. All I've been doing is surviving. I haven't been living. But yeah, I remember that phone call. A lady answered the phone, please. And that was it. I was brought in for an interview. And my case detective, he was unbelievable. He was brilliant. Brilliant. But as I say, COVID hit March 2020, so it all stalled.
But what initially, when you had went in, you had phoned first? And they invited you in for a formal interview?
Oh, formal interview, yeah.
And
cameras.
With specialist detectives that
top detectives.
And then had you spoke to Survivor S that you were going to do this, that you were going to go to the police station?
I had done it. I had reported this before Survivor S phoned,
right, okay.
Or before I phoned Survivor S. I had already done it in May.
Okay.
And in October, as I say, sorry, our friend, phoned me and told me to phone him quick.
This was after May?
Yeah.
This of the same year, of 19?
Yep, and that would have been October when he said to me on the phone that he knew something was wrong.
When you went in and made your statement, what happened? What was the series of events that followed with the police and the how they went about it?
They brought him in for an interview. And in that interview, he denied knowing me. Ballymorton is a small village. He lived in Seaview Heights, where I lived. I could have had 100 people at that time say, yeah, he knew him.
Did it surprise you that that was the way he was going
I
to?
couldn't believe it. But my detective said to me at the time, all he's doing is burying his head in the sand and just hoping it all blows away. So then,
How did you feel when this was all happening?
it was tough. It was tough. 4.5 years. From the first report from me till he gets sentenced in February. What's that? 4.5 years?
Yeah.
Of torture. Him pleading not guilty. And as he was brought into court, then there was 3 adjournments.
But before we got to court, you made yours. He's come in and made his initial statement. And what happened then? Did it go to PPS and they decided to continue with the prosecution? Or?
PPS, from what within the interview, it made me draw a plan of the house.
Yeah.
Then I told them about the caravan. They found there was enough. PPS found there was enough. We could take this.
How did that feel to know that you're being believed? Because it's bound to be very scary to go through it all again, open up to somebody,
Yeah.
and run the risk of being told that there's nothing we can do, or it was bound to be very scary.
That's the thoughts that were going through my head at the time. I'm sorry, Mr. Cunningham, but there's nothing we can do, This happened over 30 odd years ago. Like, there's no, there's no DNA, there's no, but yeah, it was bitter relief in a way as well that they said, yeah, we can do something here. And
When did he get charged? Was it in 2019 he was charged? Was it long after the interviews?
I think it was after COVID.
So he wasn't charged initially for 2.5 years?
No.
So this was on an ongoing investigation.
Yeah.
But then in October of that year, a friend had contacted you.
Yeah.
And asked you to speak to Survivor S.
Mm-hmm. But he didn't know whether to come forward or not.
Was he aware that you had came forward? It's a small village. That was it public knowledge that he had been lifted?
I actually think so, yeah.
Okay.
Because,
That's
as you
how
say,
you-
a
yeah.
small village, everybody talks and it
Yeah.
gets around real quick. So, yeah, but he didn't know what to do. He says, I don't know. I don't think I'll do this. And he says, if it's hurt you the way it's hurt me, come and do this. We have to do this. Because at that time, I just thought it was myself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he came along then. He done his side of things with his case detective. But things were looking good.
Because it's not, you don't want this to have happened to anyone else.
No, definitely not. No.
But it has strengthened the case that this is the type of person this person is. They're a predator and
Yeah.
they've done this once, they've done it again, and I would hazard a guess that yous are not the only ones that this has happened to.
I know there's more.
Yeah, and I've no doubt. But then, after talking to him, how did that make you feel then to know that,
I felt sorry for him.
did it help to have somebody that understood?
Everybody goes through it differently. everybody experiences things differently with it all. But mine was horrendous. Don't know if it was because I was a bit older when it happened to me, whereas Survivor S, he was, I think, 8 or 9, where I was on the age of 13. The brain developing more. That's only my thoughts. But then everybody deals with it in a different way. And yeah, he came on board. But then again, people think, oh yeah, colluding for money. You know, why would I come the whole way from Australia, pick one man out of a bunch of people, say, right, you, why me with family back in Australia? So yeah, that things were going along nicely then, and he denied knowing him as well.
Can I just ask you? You said you were 13. What age was he?
He was 17 going 18.
Yeah.
He was into his teens. 18, sorry. 17, and it continued into when he was 18. So he was an adult.
Yeah.
I think it's a disgrace the way they've went about it. That man's getting released in August coming. He's only been sentenced on the 21st of February.
So, before we go there, he's been charged, and you and Survivor S have been informed. Is your case being combined, or are they being heard separately?
Combined.
Okay. So the prosecution service would have informed you that they're going to combine the both cases.
Yep.
To strengthen each other's case.
Strengthening the case.
It does, however, he doesn't be sentenced individually. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
So it'll strengthen the chances of a prosecution, but weaken the amount of time, you know, if it was two individual cases tried separately, there's maybe I'm wrong on this, but from previous ones we've done, that when the time's concurrent from each, but if it's to strengthen the case to obviously get the prosecution, you had to go to trial then. Like it doesn't get easier at any point here, reliving this in a private room till, you know, with trained detectives to now having to go to court and know that
flashbacks started.
So what was you're in COVID, you're isolated, your family's on the other side of the world, and you're going through this. Where were we at then? How were you coping with the mental health side of things? Were you drinking at this point, or what way were you there?
Yeah, I was drinking. Yeah. Through COVID. I met my wife now, Leona, January 2020. And she has been my rock. She is brilliant. So understanding. I did a bit of the drinking up until probably last year. It was hard not knowing what was going to happen. On the day, I remember it was going to trial. It was 8:30 in the morning. I had to dress nicely, like for the court. Colm court's been adjourned. Fuck. And it's like, there's a third person's came forward. What? So we're going to need a few months. My head was racked completely at this time. And the pains and just everything. I always remember saying, could you tell me who the third person is? No. You're not to know. And they don't know you anyway. So things went on. I'm just always trying to work out who this third person was.
Because it is a small village.
Mm.
And if you don't know them, you might know an older relative, or they might, but they said they didn't know you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Survivor L was a piece to the puzzle. She put it on record what he done to her 13 years ago. It was left in archive. So it was still she
initially came forward first,
yeah.
and there wasn't enough evidence to proceed at the time.
She didn't want to push it. She didn't go forward with it, but she left it on record. So
the police in the case were aware of this person. So when you came, they were. This is why I'm saying to you, because sometimes it's very hard, and for victims to understand the situation of what happens for historical sex inquiries, it's a very intricate movement from what we've understood. So they have gone back.
So Survivor L's son was working with a relative of Paul Milligan and showed the paper to Survivor L's son, who took the paper home to Survivor L.
Right.
Boom.
They then became aware that, and they, okay.
She then came forward. So that was it. There was 3 of us.
And how did that make you feel? That I know this sounds very clinical or cynical, but the system is so hard in these situations. To know that there's a third person is obviously awful, but to the case, it's showing exactly, one person. And then you said there yourself, they're thinking, right, the 2 people's colluding. But there's not 3 people colluding here. There's not, nobody's colluding. But what I'm saying is, the prosecution would have said, look, this is going to help, but it's going to take time till we go through the procedure.
Of course, yeah. It took another 4 or 5 months.
But that's bound to be, that's 4 or 5 more months of turmoil and torment.
Yeah. More drinking.
But there was another adjournment then, wasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
At this point, at no point did he change his plea when the third person?
No.
Okay. So it had been rearranged for another 4 or 5 months down the line.
Yeah. And
then it had been adjourned again, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And then when did the defense...
Because his barrister, because of Survivor L coming in now, wanted time.
Yes.
Knew he didn't have a leg to stand on.
But the longer they drag these...
The longer they dragged it out...
They're hoping one of you would drop off.
Of course.
Had you become aware who Survivor L was in this time?
No.
At any point, did you become aware?
No.
Okay. So when it actually did go to court, and the date when, what date did it come to court then?
It was to go to court 14th of February. We were already 12. We were all ready for it, but we were all brought up to court for it with his family and all there with him. But our barrister, she's a chief barrister, this other lady, read out all didn't go to court. It was to go to court. This was to go to trial. But it was changed when we got there, which we didn't know about. So I had taken my father's sister, my Auntie Anne, with me. Just thinking about the sentence and was he going to be found guilty or not guilty? But no, it changed when we got there. All the filth of the day came out, and her standing there too. I was like,
When you say all the filth, is this
every single charge
right,
was
yes.
read out on what he had done
This is that.
to each individual.
How many charges was
24 between the three of us. I had, I think, 12 on him. Survivor S had 11, and she had 1.
What were the charges? The severity of the charges?
Buggery. Inappropriate, whatever.
Was he charged with grooming and
Oh, yeah, everything. A lot of stuff.
I know it's not nice to recall them. But
He played that well with me, the grooming, I tell you.
they all predators like this.
He done it very, very well.
Clever.
He done it very, very, very well.
But it's weird. They're so sophisticated in the means and methods, but it's very similar to other. When you start reading about it and you start hearing about it, they all employ the same methods, the gifts, the security, the isolate. It's always the same, and it always and this is how we know that this actually does help some people identify what actually happens to them, because some people aren't aware that they actually were a victim of grooming, and they only, in looking back and talking to others, and that happened to me. This is the same thing that was said to me.
Yeah.
This is the same thing that was done to me. It helps people identify that you are a victim. And there's something you said at the very start of the podcast, and it's troubled me a lot. When you said about your mother and how you felt responsible, you are a victim. You what happened is none of your responsibility. It's never the victim. The victim's never responsible for the crimes of a paedophile, of a predator. They're never, ever responsible. For the things that have happened to you, you're not responsible. For you to think that there's any link to what had happened to you, you were the victim. And it's important that we always remember that, because for people listening, victims listening, you are a victim. You are not responsible for the crimes of others. And that, it troubled me when you said that, because a lot of people hold some sort of like guilt. What did I do for this to happen? Nothing. These are predators. And this is why it's very, very important for us for people that's listening. There's going to be, we've had historical ones on before, and we've had people come forward. We've had people message, and you will receive this. There will be people reach out to you, won't want to reach out to us indirectly.
I hope they do
reach out to you, or just go down to the police station. And it's happened, and it has happened.
I'd actually 2 people reach out to me. What happened to them, but they don't know what to do. I can't tell them what to do. I can, but I can't make them.
And you know, peace isn't found. Resolve or some sort of peace for people isn't found the same way. Some people get and obviously they want satisfaction, they want justice. But to some people it's not the same, and we're going to go into the level of justice that we receive in this country. But for some people, you know, they never got prosecuting him, but to have their say and stand up and say it, and there may have been insufficient evidence, or the person may have passed away, or things have happened.
Very true, yeah.
That they didn't get to have their day in court as such.
But you're just saying that about your day in court. We done a previous pod. So whenever you were going to court, did you think that you were going to get up and be fit to say your bit in court?
I had it been explained to you what would happen.
Because the reason why I'm saying it is a lot of people don't know how much weight your statement carries. The weight of your statement, that's it. That's all you get to say. It's your statement being read out on your behalf. You're not going into court on that day to stand up and say, right, I'm going to tell my story now. It's your statement that you give previously. That's all the weight is in that.
It's all in that.
So your statement that you give has to be so detailed, so descriptive, and give everything. Tell it exactly how it is.
That's exactly what I've done, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just,
because a lot of people that's going through it don't actually know that. They think, right, I get to tell it later. I'll tell what I need to tell because this is what happens. But it's so important that people tell every detail so that it holds more weight in court.
Very much.
So that's one of the things that come from the previous pod that we had done. So you knew all this anyway.
Yeah.
So then on the day that you had went in, your barrister obviously went in to read that out on your behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had they fully explained to you the proceedings of events? Because you weren't, maybe they had said to you, and you're going to be an autopilot in some of this because it's just, there's so much happening, and now this is the serious side of it where they come in the wigs and they come in and they sit down. Hearing 20 plus 30 charges being read out, and there, what happened then after that? Did it proceed? Did the court case, was there cross-examination, or did he change his plea, or did he stick with his plea, or because a lot of times this is what we've seen. I don't know whether this happened because I haven't actually asked this yet. A lot of times they hang on to the very last minute, and it's almost like that one last twist of the screw to fucking hurt the person and then change the plea.
It was pure madness on that day. The mental state, I was drained. I just wanted it overdone that day. As the jury was sworn in, the 12 of them. It was like, I didn't want it to go to trial, to be honest, at that time. Myself and Survivor S spoke. I said, can't do this, can't go through all this. This could go on for weeks. We were told this could go on for weeks.
Yeah.
And just 3 weeks previous to the trial, our barrister had a trial for a girl that was raped. Not historical. And there was sufficient evidence to show that this predator had done this to this girl. But it went to trial. He walked free. Because, as we were told, when 12 jurors are brought in, there could be one of them a predator, but it's never been caught, never been convicted. There's one hasn't a clue what the judge or the judge is even saying. There's just random people.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah, but just to be clear here, this isn't the same person. This was a different case, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was just... because for the barrister, they have to have some sort of mindset of your victim, how you are, your mentality at that time. They would have had your full evaluation. They would have knew the impact this had in your life. You know, you would have had your doctors, your psychiatrist letters, and just to show the extent of the turmoil that this has put through.
But all my evidence, all my medical evidence was gathered from my local surgery and all from Australia.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the barrister would have had to sort of prep you that this isn't a penalty kick. This isn't, because it can be very triggering. It can be very delicate in the proceeding. It's a Neanderthal. We've went through this. It's the type of system and the legal system and how it deals with these needs a complete and absolute overhaul. And that was one of the main pods we've done before. But they would have had to make you aware that, even though there's the 3 years here now, and we know what you're saying is true, that's not a guarantee of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, and to the people that's listening and not actually watching, I'm using my hands as inverted commas here because I'm using this loosely, because we're well aware that it's broke the system in what they weigh as justice. But so what had happened then that day? What had happened? So you had been made previous to the 3 weeks, and you were like, you and Survivor S would have been just threw the hands up and said, I'm guilty, and it would have saved you having to testify.
Yeah.
Did you have to testify in the end?
No. He was given a plea bargain. The barristers were back and forth to the PPS, back and forth. It was like...
Were you being made aware of the pleas that were being exchanged or not? Or just aware that they were talking?
We were brought individually, myself and Survivor S. Well, the fact that Survivor L only had that one charge.
But Survivor L was a part of your case too, wasn't it?
Of course,
There
was still the three of us, but her charge stuck no matter what, because it was one charge.
Yeah.
So he was brought into one room and I was brought into another, and they were going back and forth to the barristers with the PPS to the barristers, but it was all moving along so quick.
Yeah.
And so they said, we can, there's a plea bargain if you drop half the charges.
Yep.
So myself and Survivor S dropped half our charges each. So that was the plea bargain for a milligan. So he was done for 12 charges.
And I take it these were the 12 of the lesser charges?
Of course, yeah.
Right.
The buggery was dropped. Which to me, would it have made that big difference with the buggery? I just think it's...
There's going to be so many people have a different take here. When a lot of people that aren't aware of the system, people think this person's guilty and they'll get what's coming to them, and that's that. You should plow on and have them fucking done. But the truth of the matter is, it's not as simple as that, and it's not as straightforward as that. Historical sex are harder.
It's complex.
Yeah. And they're plea bargaining, they're explaining to you that some of these charges might be harder. They may get a not guilty in this, but they don't believe you, but on the lack of evidence or on situations. So for some people, it's to get that person to admit what they have done. And you know they're not admitting to lesser charges and saying, oh, I've just done this. At this point, it's a rat trying to save itself. It's trying to save itself as much time as they can, where everyone now knows that this is the type of person. This is the person they are. For some people, that's enough. For some people, that's just for sitting here and listening on the fence. How long did Milligan get?
We got a year. We were told he was to serve the year. But I got a letter 2 weeks ago to say his release date is August.
From February?
Yeah. And...
Can you object that? Can you
No.
launch an appeal on that?
No. But we can do which we are doing. I'm trying to keep on top of it all. So I'd registered myself to get him removed from Urium 1. So now he has Survivor S and Survivor L. So now we're in that process of serve 6 months for what he'd done.
It's absolutely disgusting.
It's fucking
It
dumb.
and we've been here so many times, but
If that was mainland, if that was England, there'd be much longer.
if it was America,
America, you'd be in there for life.
yeah, 100%. And we've had a few historical sexual abuse podcasts. Some were slightly different in nature, as in we had Haley explain the legal system very, very intricately, and the process that you must go through till achieve justice. And once again, I'm using inverted commas, but for the things that this man's done, and the years of turmoil and torture for you, and I'm sure
He's taken over 2/3 of my life already. But yeah, look at it.
how do you feel now then the conviction? Was that allowing you to start getting some help to deal with that yourself? You know, to move. Where are you with that?
At the moment,
Because I have to be honest with you, Colin, there's a big worry for me here, sitting with the podcast with you. It's so brave to do what you're doing, but it's taken such a toll on you. I worry about this coming out too and being a further toll. You know, because it's you we're worried about. We'd expose all these fucking, I don't even want to call them, they're not fucking human.
they're not human.
We'd expose all these beasts and all their thing. But it's you we're worried about. And that's a worry for us. And it's hard. And I can see it in you that you're still going through it and we're still working on it. And I just want to make sure you're okay, that when this comes out, that it's helping. You know.
I'm just not here for me today. I'm here for other people. Don't be afraid. Something's happened in the past. Come forward. It does show that you can get justice. It's a long process, but to say it finally got there. Like, he's got 2 years out in license. He has to sign on the police station every week. He's not allowed to be around his grandkids without someone being there. He's not allowed to be around vulnerable people on his own. And just another thing I want to clarify, I forgot to mention. That day we went to court, we thought the trial was going ahead. It was a change of plan for our barrister. Our barrister never told her. As all the filth was read out, he had to go and get a psychiatric evaluation done. Because they made him like, there's mild, moderate and high. At that time, he was for being mild because he done nothing. He's no convictions since all that happened all them years ago. So he had to go and get a psychiatric evaluation done. At 49, near 50 years of age. But the week before the trial, he believed. He was told by her parents, she's She's an English girl, like English girl married to Milligan. They were not to have sex before the age of 16. He was having sex with her. But he told the psychiatrist or whoever it was who was evaluating him that he thought it was okay. That because he wasn't allowed to do what he'd done, with not to have sex with his girlfriend, that it was okay to mess around with us. And he says that we brought it on. That we and
But to try and make sense of the mind of a paedophile is twisted and sick. That he genuinely believes that.
He genuinely believes that at 49 years of age. He'll be 50 now in October, I think.
Their wiring's fucked. Like they're not right. Like
No,
so
definitely not. So his was moved to moderate then.
But you know, there's one thing here, and I don't believe that they stop or there's been nothing.
I'll never stop.
What I do believe is, you may not think that's a long period of time. It's not a long period. It isn't long. It's not long enough for what he's done. It does not fit the crime. But what I will say, you take a predator like that off the streets, and you take him out of places, you protect it on amount of people by coming forward. He is not being fit to do that now. He is now going to be signing on a sex offenders register.
He's on it for the rest of his life.
Yeah. People are going to be made aware. He's not going to be fit to be in positions of trust. He's not going to be fit to talk to children at school and football.
He never did go to football anyway. He never went to the pub.
But what I mean is, it may not be the level of justice we all want. Fucking people like that swinging from a tree. But it's protecting people. And it's very, very important. If you are a victim, and you are a victim, there is no shame. And people will believe you. When you tell the truth about a thing like that, people will believe you. Because there's nobody in the right mind could tell that story if it was never the truth. And that's always why the big card that these predators play is that they won't believe, and people's own self-doubt is they won't be believed if they come forward. But that's why it's very important in these pods that we do let people know that you will be believed. There's absolutely, you speak to somebody you trust, just speak to that one person and to try and help with the headspace, to just share that burden that you're going through, to speak to one person, but people will believe you. And that's one thing that is important for me. These take a right toll on me. They don't take anywhere near, so I'm not trying to at any point, because I know how hard it is for you and I know how brave it is to come up here and waive your right to anonymity and put it out there and say to people, this has happened to me. It was not me. I am a victim of this. If I can do this, you can also speak out, protect others, because these people will do it again. And if it's happened to you and you think, oh, it's happened years ago, and you're outrunning it, you don't outrun it. It'll at some point, you could outrun it for a while, you could forget about it, you could put it to the back of your mind. Something just happened someday, somewhere, standing in the shop, something happened, you see something, or sound, or smell, or noise.
That's exactly
and you're right back in that moment in time. And that's where your mind logs things. You may hide from it, you may suppress it, but we cannot outrun that. We need to talk to people, and we need to talk to professionals. We're going to include a lot of links in this. It is just one thing, Colin, and I do have a worry, and we have a duty of care to you first and foremost. And we always have to weigh up that the message you're saying is so important, but we want to look after you. We just want to make sure that you're okay when this comes out, and I think you will. I think you'll see the love and support you get, but the amount of people you help that you might not know about. So I want to thank you for having the brave, and his courage, because it's not easy. It's not easy for a grown man, a grown woman, anyone to come forward and say these things and talk about the hardest things that's happened to them. It's not, and know that it'll be viewed thousands of times.
It was either die or do what I did. I didn't want to die, so I had to do it.
Well, just before we finish up, we're going to leave it up to you to say what would you want from people to take from this pod, and what do you want to say to people?
That they can come forward and they can be believed. It is hard, but there is justice. But yeah, I'd love to give out my phone number, but can't go down that.
You know what we can do? We can link you in, and if people want to reach out directly,
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
If they want to get you on social media,
Of course.
we'll put your social media links in, and people can, because a lot of people would be like, they'd like to talk to you. It's hard. It'll be hard enough to get the courage to talk to you, but then they're gonna message our page to message you. And I also always want to say that you know, there's a small few of us that answer the messages, and it's always with compassion. And if you do reach out to us or anything like that, but sometimes for people they would rather just talk directly to you.
Our barrister said our win was like a needle in a haystack. The last time she seen it was 14 years ago. So she was actually phenomenal. Brilliant.
It's not been easy, isn't Colm? And I'm sure, I hope for
Can only get better now, it has to.
I hope you find peace. I really do. I just want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Colin.